Okay, so I got asked quite a bit if I was going to discuss the new Samurai Jack episodes, and I always said I'm just going to wait until the end to give a retrospective on not only season 5, the last 10 episodes, but also the entire series as a whole. I really wanted to wait until the very end to judge it. Samurai Jack is one of those interesting shows where sometimes you can't really express exactly how it makes you feel. And a lot of episodes don't involve a lot of dialogue, and that's one of the great things I love about Samurai Jack when I was a child growing up with it, is that when you're a child, you just want to see action, you want to see people getting cut up, you want to see, crazy magic powers and explosions and shit like that. And a lot of movies and shows that deal a lot with silence or more about building the mood or just the ambiance of a scene that goes over the heads of a lot of kids. I know it did for me. There were plenty of movies back then that I hated. I couldn't stand watching because I'm like, it's boring, nothing happens. But later on in life, I have a new appreciation for. But Samurai Jack, it was one of those first really, shows that build atmosphere in that way and without dialogue, like in episode 3, not episode 3 of the series overall, but episode 3 of the new season, where most of it is just Jack is not talking. There's no talking whatsoever. It's Jack and the wolf inside of that cave, and they're just healing each other and just keeping each other company and shit like that. And how do you really review that? How do you really convey your emotions there? I'd always just say, just sit down and watch it and just take it in all on your own. And, the message you get, is from that scene is, it's different for everybody. But it's not really something I could sit here and just review and critique other than saying it's a good moment. So a lot of people think the last episode that aired last night was rushed. The finale felt like it crammed pretty much everything into one episode. The final epic battle with Aku, Jack returning to the past, Jack defeating Aku, and the ending. And I honestly don't feel that. It's weird. I thought I should. I thought I seriously should have. And that's one of those things where I really don't mince words on. If I feel cheated about something, if I feel like, man, I invested so much time into this story, into these characters, and you just took it all away from me, I'll come out and bitch about it. I was like that with Legend of Korra. After the first season of Legend of Korra was over, I really felt like I did get cheated a little bit. I felt like so much was, resolved way too quickly at the end of the first season of Legend of Korra. But honestly, I didn't feel that with this. With episode 9 last week, I felt like I was going to, because I'm like, oh, okay, so we have one episode left, and Jack has to somehow manage to get his sword back, and Ashi's gonna, she's, being controlled by Aku, and all these other plot lines have to come together in this one episode. I'm gonna be disappointed by this. And it's just the same length as a normal episode, maybe a little bit longer, but I don't think it is. I do remember, though, that it might have been a little bit longer, because I remember there was, the first commercial break it went to that was really short. I remember that. I remember, I'm watching it last night, and then, okay, first commercial break, and I was, going away to do something else, and, before I turned by, oh, shit, it's back on already. So I feel like that gave it a little bit leeway, maybe a few extra minutes there, just to deal with that. But, yeah, it's pretty much Jack getting his sword back, returning to the past, and everyone arriving to defeat Aku, all in the span of 22 minutes. Let's talk about the ending, I guess, before we get into everything else. So after Jack and Ashi, after they meet each other in the little darkness world or whatever, Jack gets sucked into that, Ashi's demon form or whatever. Jack confesses his love for Ashi, and through the power of love, she breaks the boundaries and manages to control Aku's power, but still retaining herself. That's another thing that I really felt like I should be pissed about. In fact, when it happened, I even said, so the power of love conquers all. I've never seen that before. And it's weird, man. It's something I should be pissed about. It's something like, oh, okay, so the power of love just triumphs over all, just defeats the big bad, and everything's hunky-dory because of the power of love. That isn't cliche at all. But you know what? I didn't feel that. And you know what? I think it just comes down to the fact of the way that the story was told and the way that we got introduced to these characters. And it feels like they deserve it, to a sense. Maybe it's because it's just been... This is the ending, and we've gotten... I mean, we should be lucky we got anything at all, really. But it's not that. It's not just like, well... It's not a great ending. In fact, it's a shitty ending. But at least it is an ending. That's not what I'm talking about here. It's more about how, like, even in the span of 10 episodes, Gendy did something that I didn't think was possible and managed to make this viable. Managed to make the whole, like, okay, Jack's never had a love interest up until now. In the last few episodes, in his developing relationship with Ashi, you'd think that, oh, this has only been going on for like a few episodes. You'd think that it wouldn't be strong enough to have that fucking power of love Deus Ex Machina thing show up. But the way it was conveyed, it worked. It really worked. And maybe that's just the way that Gendy does, you know, the way his storytelling is expressed through, you know, the ambiance and shit like that. And more about the mood rather than, you know, more showing rather than telling. Am I making any sense? Maybe not. But let me put it this way. Everything is crammed into this one episode, but that's all we needed. At least that's all I needed. It's not like, okay, we don't need to have a big epic battle that spans multiple episodes. Here's the big epic battle. Everyone's there. Everyone's involved. Yeah, it's only happening for about 15 minutes or so, but that felt good enough to me. The way it was conveyed, the way it was done, it hit all the points that I was hoping that it hit. You have a reunion with Jack and the Scotsman. You have a bunch of the old people coming. You have the We Jump Good people coming back. We have the dog from the first few episodes coming back. It's like Gendy kind of looked at it and was like, okay, I know we're not going to have a lot of time to work with, so let's just hit all the crucial points. Let's bring back all the fan favorites. Let's do, even if it's just 1 or 2 scenes, like the Archers. The Archers only have like 1 scene where they just shoot a bunch of fucking arrows at Aku's eyes. And that's it. But that felt good enough for me. That scene and the scene a few episodes back when Ashi visited them. That was good. That was good. The dog, I think his name's Reginald, comes back from, like, the first few episodes of the series. You know, the first alien life that Jack really got, you know, helped out and assisted in their war against Aku. They come back and fight him, help fight Aku. The reunion with Jack and the Scotsman is really brief. It's only, like, 3 or 4 minutes, if that. And it's mostly comprised of the Scotsman just listing off all of his daughter's names. But that felt good enough. Oh, and then you have the back and forth they usually had, where after the Scotsman's done listing, like, his 37 daughters' names, the Scotsman's like, "Ah, Jack, you can pick anyone you want. It would be my pride if you could pick one of my daughters to be your wife." I'm Scottish, but yet I don't have a good Scottish accent. And Jack's just like, oh no, that's okay. And the Scotsman immediately switches, complete 180. He's just like, "What? You think you're too good for my daughters, you daft bastard?" And Jack's just like, "Oh no, I found someone." And then he points to Ashi, who's in her demon form, wrecking people. And the Scotsman's just like, "I don't think she's your type, lad." That was good. That was fine. You'd think, oh man, I want a whole episode where the Scotsman and Jack, you know, reunite and have like a big epic battle. But that was good enough for me. Maybe not for you, but that was good enough for me. That's like, all right. Before we end this story, we got a reunion with Jack and the Scotsman. You know what? It made me laugh. It made me feel what I needed to feel. I'm good. Moving on to the next scene. I'm good with that. But okay. So I said I was going to talk about the ending, and I started going off a tangent about that. All right. So one of my favorite scenes, probably my favorite scene period in this episode, and it makes so much sense to me that I loved, was after Ashi, through the power of love, gets control back under, you know, she gets to control not only her body, but she also gets to control Aku's abilities. She fights against Aku very briefly, just kind of like reflexively attacking him. And then Jack realizes, "Ashi, you have Aku's powers!" And then Ashi, without missing a beat. I fucking love this. Without missing a beat, she realizes immediately what she has the potential to do, immediately goes, grabs Jack's sword, gives it back to him, and then uses Aku's time, I call it the time screech, like the time screech thing, and sends them both back to the past. I love that. I love that, because she doesn't dick around like, Ashi, you have Aku's powers. Like, oh, okay, now we can defeat Aku. No, it's like, oh shit, I can travel through time. Let's go. Zip. I know they probably also did that because of the time constraints in the episode, but just from a logical standpoint, why would you dick around? Oh, we're in a massive war zone right now. People are dying. You know, Aku's at, like, the strongest right above us. Why would we dick around with him when we have the power to just transport through time? And then boom, just do it. So Jack arrives right after Aku sends him into the future. We get like a redone version of episode 1 a little bit at the pilot. It's all new. Like it's still it's not like they don't recycle the same audio is what I mean. They add in this like different audio, but it's still the same scene where Jack's about to kill Aku, and then Aku's like, you know, does the time screech to send him in the future. And then they immediately arrive, Jack and Ashi, after Jack gets sent to the future like a second later. And then Aku's like, wait, whoa, what the hell? And then Jack just cuts him down. There's one sliver of him that tries to escape, and then Jack just, you know, does the epic thing where he just jumps in the air and just, no more! And then just stabs Aku, and the entire palace evil thing that he has destroyed. It blows up, and then Jack and Ashi run off in the distance, escaping the explosion like fucking 90s action movie style. And we cut, like, immediately, right after that, we cut immediately to Jack's wedding, where Jack is, his father has, like, all of his, you know, they were, like, I don't know if you remember, but from the pilot, Jack returns, and the whole entire family is under the control of Aku, and they're being treated like slaves, but everyone's freed now. This is, like, a few months later, actually, but then, like, they defeat Aku, and then they just skip a few months in the later, when Jack is ready to get married to Ashi, and all of Jack's mentors arrive. We get to see the Vikings, and we get to see the Roman dude, and the Indian dude, and the African guy with his whole family, and Robin Hood just appears, and he's like, ha-ha! You know, like, so that's cool. That's a throwback from the first episode. And this is the part, I think, you know, more than anything, more about the rushed ending, which a lot of people feel like, you know, once again, it was rushed, but even with it being rushed, I didn't have a problem with it. I'll say that. I'll admit that. I'll admit, yeah, it was rushed. They did throw a lot of shit in the last episode, but I was okay with it. Ashi, while in the middle of walking down the aisle to get married to Jack, collapses. And then Jack goes to her and is like, Ashi, what's wrong? And then Ashi's like, I can't exist because Aku didn't exist, because he didn't make it to the future, so it's like, I can't exist without him. It's like a time paradox, and then Ashi disappears. And the final scene of the series and the episode is Jack riding off on his horse underneath a tree, and just kind of sitting there, just like, you know, being depressed that Ashi's gone. And then a ladybug lands on his finger and just kind of looks at him. And, you know, Jack's, like, you could look at the ladybug being a, you know, a symbol to represent Ashi's soul or something or whatever. And then Jack realizes, like, everything's going to be okay. Ashi might be gone, but we defeated Aku, and the world is safe, and it's for the first time in my life, it's a bright future. I can actually look to the future with hope instead of with, you know, pain and suffering. And then that's where the series ends. So a lot of people were pissed off by the time paradox thing. How, okay, if Ashi didn't exist because Aku didn't exist in the future, then shouldn't Jack also not exist? Because it's a classic bootstrap paradox, okay? So if Ash and Ashi arrive in the past and kill Aku, then Aku doesn't live into the future and provide the daughters of Aku with a sampling of his power, allowing Ashi's mother to give birth to Ashi and her sisters. And also, in that regard, that also fucks up since there's no Ashi in the future, that also fucks up Jack's way of returning to the future, so it's a paradox. Honestly, at first, I thought they were going to do the thing they do with, like, the multiverse theory. I thought they were going to do the same thing they did in Dragon Ball. In the time traveling in Dragon Ball isn't the same as, like, okay, going to the future and the past. It's, like, different dimensions. So I was thinking like, okay, the future they went to where Aku is like ruling over everybody, that's like a parallel universe. That's like not the actual future. They're not actually connected. You can kill Aku in the past, and that creates like a separate timeline where Aku does exist and then rules the future, and then this timeline where Jack kills Aku in the past, and then everything is cool and chill and peaceful. And so I thought they were going to do something like that, because after they defeat Aku, you'd think Ashi would disappear right away, but it's like a few months later. It's like they're ready to get married. It happens at like the worst possible time. It happens when like think about this. They have to send like wedding invitations out to everybody. Like there's people that arrive into Japan from like Africa and Rome. This could take months. So it's like, all right, the time paradox makes you disappear, but it takes a few months to take effect. So that's a little weird how it happened. It was like such a delayed reaction. And that got me thinking, you know what would make more sense to me? And this is the way I'm probably going to view the ending of Samurai Jack. This is the way I'm probably going to interpret it, just so it makes more sense to me. And it's one of those things where you can just come up with your own thing. But I like to think that, yes, it was in fact a multiverse. It was in fact like, that future does still exist, but, this is the different world we live in now. Okay, then, Matt, how do you explain Ashi disappearing then? Well, there's any number of reasons for that. You could say that because she had Aku's power within her, she had like a limited supply of that, and since Aku's evil is now gone, since Jack purged it, she was living on a certain like a battery that was slowly being depleted, and then after it was gone, that was the last remnants of Aku's evil. It no longer existed in the world, so she disappeared as well. You can also look at it like when Jack purified Aku with his sword, maybe the evil inside Ashi would be purified too. It just took longer to take effect. Or you have the last one, which I like the most, is that you have the gods getting involved. You have like the Odin and the Shiva, the Hindu god, and freaking what was the Horus, the Egyptian god dude that gave Jack the sword, and Jack's father the sword as well. They remember in the Birth of Evil, Aku is like part of this bigger, huge cosmic entity of just swirling evil, and the gods destroyed that, and like a small fragment of that evil, managed to get to Earth, and then that's what became Aku. And I feel like the only trace of this evil left, now that Aku has been defeated, it was within Ashi, and maybe the gods got involved like, okay, even though Ashi's good, and even though she's, in control, she still has a fragment of this evil within her, so we're gonna get rid of that. The only problem with that is that after Aku gets defeated, Ashi makes the claim of like, I felt him leave me. So it's like, oh, well, the evil's gone. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Even then, maybe the evil getting sucked out of her after, maybe, she was dependent on that for so long, and living without it just caused her to disappear. You can look at it that way. But I still want to do with the multiverse just because that makes more sense for Jack still being able to remember the future, and for everybody still being at that wedding, because you think, oh, if Ashi never existed, then everyone at the wedding would disappear because they wouldn't be there at that time. Just a bunch of shit paradox that are confusing. But that's the ending, and it was sad. And a lot of people also got upset feeling that Jack should have had a happy ending. All the shit he's been through, he should have had a happy ending. But you know what? He accomplished what he set out to do. His mission for 50 years was kill Aku, and he killed Aku. He only met Ashi recently. And he'll never forget her, and he'll never forget what she did for him. But at the same time, like I said, I think the reward is good enough, that he saved the entire world, and that he made it so that the suffering of thousands and millions of people on this planet and multiple planets will now be avoided. And all he had to exchange for that is the woman that he loved. And you could question, like, well, that's still a hefty price to pay, and it is. But I think Jack will be okay. I think Jack will be fine. I think he'll grow up to be a great emperor, probably become the emperor already, and then rule over Japan in a good, very fair and just way in Ashi's name, because that's what she would have wanted, that kind of thing. I think Jack will be fine. But I'm very, very happy with this finale. I think it did a good job. Few things I have to be upset by, like the paradox and all that shit, but I think, once again, I could fill in the gaps myself there, and I could be pretty happy with it. It's certainly nothing in the last episode that ruined the whole thing for me, or anything like that. Or nothing in the last nothing in the last 10 episodes or so really did anything that really ruined anything for me. They've been pretty good about being consistent with the show's continuity and all that, for the most part. Last thing before I go, just for the sake of mentioning it, because it was a huge nostalgia trip, was the beginning of the episode when Aku displays to the entire world that he's captured Jack, but he does so by first retelling the events of the series, and he does this by showing the opening credits from the original Samurai Jack cartoon. Like, long ago in a distant land. You know, he plays that for everybody. And it syncs up so well, because not only is it a huge nostalgia trip for me, it really is like, if Aku wanted to explain to the entire people, the entire world, who Jack really is, and why Aku hates Jack, and why Aku wants to capture and kill Jack, this would make perfect sense. Like, long ago, there was this land I took over, and there was this samurai wielding a magic sword who tried to stop me. That's the person you all know as Jack. And Jack almost won, but I sent him in the future, which is why he's here, and then that's the reason why I hate him so much, and that he's trying to kill me with this magic sword, and I finally captured him, and I'm gonna kill him. Because I'm Aku, bitches! It made perfect sense to air that, and it also was a huge nostalgia trip, so I just had to mention that. But yeah, what did you guys think of the last season? What did you think of the finale? You know, I don't know. I feel like there's like a really mixed opinion on this. I feel like there's people that just absolutely didn't like it and thought it ruined the whole fucking series. But I felt like it was consistent with the story. I felt like it was consistent there. And this might sound weird, but having like a really long, drawn-out final battle, like that was like several episodes long or something like that, I don't know if that would have fit with the story. And I know there's been other multi-parters before, and I know like we had that big epic battle, like even in the beginning of the at the beginning of the story when Jack was fighting those beetle drones and shit. But I don't know. I don't know. I felt like it was the best way that it could possibly be executed in a 22-minute time frame. And I was fine with it. I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point, so I'm going to get off here now. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'm just so happy that I managed to, the story concluded, finally. That I now have closure on this, that this is something that my childhood self used to watch every week when it came out, getting really invested in the characters, really invested in the story, and then having that all just end abruptly. And now here we are, over a decade later, rectifying that and giving us an ending. I'm not even going to say it's not the ending we deserve, but it's the ending we needed or some shit like that. Or it's not the ending we needed, but it's the ending we deserve. No, I feel like this is the ending. This is the ending. If Samurai Jack would have continued back in 2004, like if it would never have ended, or if it was like a brief hiatus, this is probably the same thing we would have gotten, or something similar. And I'm fine with that. Like I said, I'm fine with that. But okay, yeah, that's my thoughts on Samurai Jack Season 5 and the series as a whole. It was a great piece of cartoon history, I guess. I don't know. And I'm very glad that we had this. I'm very glad that we had this finale here. Thanks for watching, guys. This will be Tekking101 signing out.